What is up, guys? Rick Hackis here, and today we are discussing what I believe is the most important factor the Rise of Iron expansion needs to achieve. Now, I want to clarify my point a little bit here. I'm not saying that without this, the Rise of Iron will fail. Far from it, the Rise of Iron is almost guaranteed to be a good addition to Destiny. From what we've seen, a new raid, private matches, new exotics, a new story campaign, that's all great, and I think most of us would agree as Destiny players that Destiny right now is a little starved for content, and so getting a lot more of that content in the form of a large expansion is great. But this is the thing the Rise of Iron can do that will make it go from a good addition to Destiny to a fantastic addition to Destiny. The completion of this thing will make it so that we are entertained with Destiny for the next year until Destiny 2. If they don't accomplish this, the same thing is going to happen when they didn't really accomplish this with the Taken King, in that we just get starved for content and we are begging Bungie for the next live update. And surprisingly, I seem to be the only one talking about this. I have not seen any questions pertaining to this subject asked in any Rise of Iron interview. So if you want to get this subject to Bungie's attention, if you want some of this stuff implemented, if you agree with what I'm saying, please remember to help spread the word on this video by simply rating and especially sharing it, even if you just send it to a friend. Now, what is this big something that I keep talking about? What is the thing that I think is important for the Rise of Iron to achieve? Well, simply put, I think the Rise of Iron to be a fantastic addition to Destiny needs to diversify the loot in the game. Now, that may sound like a fancy marketing slogan, and it kind of is. It's essentially the catchphrase I've chosen for what I'm going to talk about. But trust me, guys, it is unbelievably important for the future of Destiny, and here's why. And to discuss why, let's actually talk about what the Rise of Iron is doing to somewhat accomplish this. Let's talk about the good things that actually apply to this. First and foremost, we have the addition of new exotics. New exotics are the best part of the Destiny loot system. Frankly, I believe they are the key factor in actually propping a not-so-good loot system up. And the reason being why exotics are so fantastic is because every exotic you use is a different gameplay experience. If you use the Bad Juju, the Monte Carlo, the Thorn, the Last Word, any of those guns, although they are all primary weapons, it is a different gameplay experience each time you use a different one, which is absolutely fantastic. The exotics are designed amazingly in Destiny, and again, they are also different, and every time you use a different one, for the most part, it is a different gameplay experience, and that is how loot is designed properly in a loot-based game. Another great thing that the Rise of Iron is doing is the introduction of these new and interesting artifacts into the game, which have huge gameplay ramifications because of their awesome new abilities. You have artifacts that make it so that you can see enemies with full supers and see enemies with low health. You have ones that make it so that your radar never disappears on your primary weapon, giving you third eye essentially, and makes your radar, more accurate. You have ones that eliminate your super and give you more grenades and melee charges. Those are all super fantastic, and again, they're desirable pieces of loot that make the gameplay experiences different each time you use different ones, which is exactly what you want to accomplish. Destiny, at its core, is a loot-based game, and people sometimes forget about this and get caught up in things that really aren't that essential for the continuation of Destiny. But the reason you keep playing Destiny is because of loot. You may have played, the King's Fall raid a couple of times if there was no loot tied to it just for fun, but the reason you've played it over and over again, and then played it again on hard mode over and over again, is to get loot. Case in point, how many of you are playing the Legacy Strike playlist? I'm gonna venture out and say almost none of you. How many of you are playing the Heroic Strike playlist? I'm gonna venture out and say almost all of you. Why? If you're doing it just for fun, why wouldn't you just do the Legacy Strike playlist every once in a while? Play the old strikes. It's because the new one, the Heroic Strike playlist, has the best loot. Loot is the the most important factor in motivating people to play the game. It is the key reason why we play certain activities, and therefore, because loot is so important, it's very important to keep loot feeling fresh, to keep loot desirable, to keep you wanting more loot within the game. And that's exactly what the earlier two things of adding new exotics with the Rise of Iron and the new artifacts look to achieve. New, desirable pieces of loot. But here's the reason why I'm concerned. Do you think Destiny can survive just with those two things until Destiny 2? I don't necessarily think so. So let's venture off of those two things, which are confirmed to be, ways to diversify loot, and ask the question, what other things are being done to diversify loot within the Rise of Iron? The Taken King added new gun types. It added sidearms fully into the game. It added melee weapons fully into the game. What is the Rise of Iron adding in terms of gun types? SMGs, heavy sniper rifles, laser rifles? It's not adding any of those things as far as we've seen, and we've seen enough that it's pretty unlikely that any of those things are being added. Those are a huge way to diversify the game. So okay, they're not adding any new gun types. Are they adding new interesting weapon perks? Well, most likely, but I haven't really seen a ton of huge examples of the new perks they're adding just into the loot table. Not new exotics, but all of the other guns we use, the legendary weapons we use. Are those getting new, interesting, gameplay-changing perks? Because if they are, that's absolutely fantastic. Think of the ramifications of adding just one new perk into the loot table. You're gonna have to experiment with that new perk on every single gun type it's available to spawn on. Maybe it's good on scout rifles, but not as good on auto rifles, etc. And then you're gonna have to compare and contrast its usefulness when combined with other perks currently in the game. Like, it would change gameplay dramatically. Case in point, guys, what if tomorrow Bungie added a new perk that you could get on any gun in the game pretty much that increased the fire rate of your weapon but dramatically lowered stability? How insane would that be? I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys are thinking of the ramifications of that. Okay, which auto rifles could it go on? That combined with the super fast rate of fire auto rifles, like how insane would those be? Which guns could get away with taking a huge stability decrease in order to get more rate of fire? Like, the possibilities and the gameplay ramifications of doing that would be insane. So the question remains, are they adding anything like that with the Rise of Iron? Moving away from perks, the guns themselves need a redesign. Again, exotics are fantastic, but everything below them is pretty stale. We have seen the same damage archetypes since the Destiny Alpha. And for those of you who don't know, ever since the Destiny Alpha came out, we've had 3 different styles of auto rifles. The fast shooting ones, the ones in the middle, and the slow shooting ones. That has never changed from that point to this point with the Rise of Iron coming out. And that trend of having a very limited amount of archetypes continues with every other gun type in Destiny. So, when are we going to get these new damage archetypes? Because if you want to know why they're important, imagine if one was taken away. Imagine if there was only 2 damage archetypes for auto rifles in the game. There was no fast firing auto rifles. There was just the medium fire rate ones and the slow fire rate ones. And then all of a sudden, in a DLC, the fast firing 900 rounds per minute auto rifles were added. How crazy would that be? How much would that change up gameplay? Dramatically. So if you want to know the effect of adding a new damage archetype, that would be the effect. The middle of the road auto rifle shoots at 600 rounds per minute, and again the fastest one shoots at 900. There is a huge space in between them, and anyone who's played any other first-person shooters, Call of Duty, Battlefield, etc., knows that there is a huge difference between using a 750 rounds per minute gun and using a 600 rounds per minute gun. So they could totally introduce new archetypes somewhere in the middle of the current rate of fire archetypes for auto rifles. What about a scout rifle that kills in 2 headshots? And it wouldn't be overpowered because all you need to do is just slow down the rate of fire so the time to kill exactly lines up with the current time to kills in the game. There, it's balanced. And we've never seen that introduced as of yet. Guys, New perks and new damage archetypes are so important for the continued success of Destiny. That's why I talked about how at its core, Destiny is a loot-based game. Every activity in the game has loot tied to it. The desirable, hard, challenging, most fun activities have the best loot usually tied to it. And so when you're getting on the 18th plus month of Destiny being out, and you have weapons that are the same as weapons that came out before the game ever released, they're less desirable, especially since, and this problem is going to be compounded 10 times more, because all of the weapons with infusion currently in the game are going to continue to have infusion. So there's going to be all of this new awesome activities, the new Trials of Osiris, new Iron Banner, new Raid, but if you're getting weapons that have the exact same damage and rate of fire as the weapons you already have, why would you keep the new weapons? Okay, you might keep a few because they look cool, but they're probably not going to have as good of perks as the God Roll Auto Rifle, for example, you already have. So a lot of people are just going to get their new, awesome looking Raid Auto Rifle and infuse it right away into the auto rifle they've already been using. And that's just a sad thing. But again, it makes sense. They're essentially the same bloody auto rifles, just a little bit reskinned, potentially with maybe some new perks that aren't very well designed. Look at the Taken King perks. Most of them you're not looking for on gun rolls. You're still looking for the same small handful of perks that you've been looking for since Destiny ever came out. And therefore, if there isn't enough diversification within the loot coming out, within the weapons, and within the armor, which I'm going to talk about in a sec, you're just not going to end up with these desirable pieces of loot that people are going to go after. At least not in the long run. Initially, yeah, sure, everyone's going to be trying to collect the new Iron Banner weapons, the new raid weapons, all of that stuff. But as time goes on, as vault space is restricted, you are not going to be chasing that new stuff. Once, you watch a video about the new Raid Pulse Rifle, and, myself or another Destiny YouTuber is like, yeah, it does the exact same damage as the Suros PDX-45, but it has way worse starting stability, so it has no purpose in the game. Are you really going to be excited about that new Raid Pulse Rifle? I honestly don't think so, because guys, that's exactly what's happened with certain King's Fall and other weapons within the game. The Anguish of Dryston King's Fall Auto Rifle. It just does the same damage as other more useful auto rifles in the game, but has a really bad recoil pattern, so no one uses it. And therefore, your motivation to play the King's Fall raid, even if you don't have that weapon, falls off dramatically. And that's the problem when you don't diversify the loot. If the Anguish of Dryston had an entirely different damage archetype, shot faster than 900 rounds per minute, shot at 1,000 rounds per minute, but then had even worse stability, even if it had worse stability, people would still be trying to get it because it's unique. And the exact same principles can be applied to armor. Armor currently in the game, if it's not exotic armor, you really aren't using it for its abilities. The reason most people use the armor they do is because it has the ammo capacity bonuses and the reload bonuses to complement the weapons they're mainly using. I would love to see armor actually diversified within the Rise of Iron. New perks added that make you want to use a certain piece of armor because of the perk, and not use that armor just because you're using a certain weapon. And so guys, I think by now I've made my point. If you just keep adding what are essentially reskins into the game, the loot system just gets stale, which is incredibly bad because the loot system is the core of Destiny. I don't want to sound like I'm all doom and gloom here though. Like I said at the beginning of the video, the Rise of Iron looks to be a good addition to Destiny. I am excited for it. I'm excited for the new exotics, I'm excited for the new raid, I'm excited for the new artifacts, all of that stuff. That's all good additions to Destiny, and as a Destiny fan, I'm looking forward to it. But also, as a Destiny fan, as a true Destiny fan, I think it's my responsibility to bring up to you guys things that I think could and should be improved. And this is my main fighting point. This is where I'm planting my flag. This is the biggest thing the Rise of Iron can do to improve Destiny. And frankly, it doesn't have to be the Rise of Iron. The Rise of Iron is coming up. I needed to make this video because I think it's such an important video to make, and I really appreciate all of you who actually help me out in spreading the word, who agree with me and are like, sharing this on Twitter, all of this stuff. Thank you so much, because this might actually get implemented. But if it doesn't, I'm still going to be fighting for it because, through a live update, through an April update style of live update, the December update or whatever they're going to add, they still have opportunities to do this. They still have opportunities to add weapon perks into the game. They still have opportunities to add a new gun type if I'm being super hopeful, like add a couple of SMGs into the game. My god, that would be fantastic for the Destiny loot system. So I'm never giving up on this issue because I feel like it's such an important issue. Thank you so much for supporting me, and thank you for listening to all the way in this length of the commentary. Now again, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to see more Destiny content in the future, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at Rick Kakis. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day. One of the things I love to do when we get one of these streams, a gameplay reveal or something of the like, is I love to comb over the footage and analyze the new weapons and armor being added with this new content. And that's because I love the weapons and armor in Destiny. I'm a huge collector and it really interests me. So I'm bringing that to you guys today. I've combed over the footage and we're going to analyze some of the new armor sets, some of the new weapons, and even some new exotics being added with the Rise of Iron.